All this time, we have been looking at Cancelled as the song about Blake Lively. But I think this is about her too. And whereas Cancelled was more charitable and more forgiving, this one is not. This album shows through the different clues that Taylor is not that into Travis. And she knows that Travis is not that into her. But time is running out. They both want to have children. They want to have a family. And they just decided to settle for each other. This video is not intended to be mean. I have no desire to be mean towards Taylor Swift. I have some opinions, and thanks to you who left a comment in my last video that you wanted to hear my opinions on Taylor's album, The Life of a Showgirl. So here it is. Here are my thoughts on The Life of a Showgirl. And I have to say, this album surprised me in more ways than one. Let's get into it. Now, yes, the public is correct. The album was very blah. There was nothing remarkable about this album. The only newsworthy things to be said about this album were the controversies, and yes, I will get into that. This was not your typical Taylor Swift production, but I will not say that this was a bad album. I know everybody's saying it's one of the worst albums that I've ever heard and blah, blah, blah. No, it was not. It wasn't a bad album. It's arguably the worst album that Taylor Swift has produced, but it's a testament to her talent to say that even though this was her worst album, it was still sonically much better than most stuff that you see out there. So I'm going to start by saying that. I have some serious critiques on this album, which I will get into, but I want to start by saying after listening to the whole thing, which I hadn't done when I did my video the last time talking about my disappointment that this wasn't about Blake Lively, I hadn't really listened to the entire album. I listened to some of the key tracks that everybody was talking about, but then I sat down and listened to the entire thing, and it wasn't a bad album. There's a couple songs that are kind of stuck in my head, and I'll go through all the tracks one by one and tell you why. But I am not, if you've been following my channel, I am not one of those people that follow the crowd. I like to make my own decisions. I like to listen to things objectively, to put my feelings aside, and to just listen to the art, to look at the art for what it is, and not just follow the crowd. If you remember, when J-Lo put out her movie, This Is Me Now, everybody lambasted it. They said it was horrible, that nobody could understand what it was about, that it was so tacky. And I watched it and I said, I liked it. I can understand why people would think it was hypocritical of J-Lo to put out a movie that is all about self-love and not just wanting to find meaning in relationships and finding meaning in yourself. And when you find meaning within yourself, that's when you're going to find the true love of your life. Yes, people had a right to criticize that. But to say that it was a bad movie, it was really disingenuous. It was just people piling on. And that happens a lot on the internet. And if you want to watch those videos, I'm just going to put them here and I'm going to link them below. And a lot of the pile-on that I'm seeing against Taylor Swift with this album are people saying, we knew that Taylor wasn't good. We always knew it. Y'all are just finding this out. And the way this album sounds to y'all, all her other albums sound exactly the same way to us. And to that I say, to all those people say, I knew all along. You didn't. You didn't know anything. You weren't paying attention. Because if you were paying attention, you would know that Taylor Swift, regardless of whether you like her style or not, she's nothing to sneeze at. We're not going to sit here and pretend that Taylor didn't write All Too Well or Cardigan or The Black Dog or August or Dear John. Have y'all listened to all the girls you've run dry have tired, lifeless eyes because you burned them out, but I took your matches before fire could catch me. So don't look now, I'm shining like fireworks over your sad, empty town. Don't play with Taylor. And she wrote that song when she was maybe 19, 20 years old. Come on, don't play with the pen. Don't do that. Just say, I'm not familiar with her music. and I don't listen to country music, and I don't listen to little pop music, so I never paid attention. I will respect that, but do not pretend that you are paying attention, you listen to the lyrics, and you said this is not good, because you'll be lying. So yes, The Life of a Showgirl was a miss, but we are not going to invalidate a brilliant career over one misstep, okay? Just want to make that clear. I tend to judge art based on the art itself, not on the artist who creates the art, regardless of my feelings. And let me tell you right now, after listening to the album, after listening to the commentary online, I'm not feeling Taylor right now. I'm not too happy with Taylor. Yes, I heard it, I saw it, and we're going to discuss it. So I can put my feelings aside and critique the art for what it is. So let's get into it. I have my notes here. Let's start with the main reason why people were so disappointed, especially her fans. When Taylor announced the title of the album, The Life of a Showgirl, and she showed all the art, all the photos, those beautiful, colorful photos of Taylor dressed up in showgirl costumes, people had really high expectations for this type of music. They were thinking showgirl, show tunes, big band music, brass, horns, a riotous, feel-good album. Think about songs that Christina Aguilera put in her album Back to Basics, like Candyman or Ain't No Other Man. That's kind of the lane that a lot of people were thinking about. I obviously was thinking that it was going to be about Blake Lively. I'm never going to live that down. Trust me. But people were right to think that, to expect that. And when this album came out with these really limp, tepid, uninspired songs, people were very disappointed. So right off the bat, the optics did not match the final product. And that was the first strike against it. But let's go over the songs themselves, shall we? Let's go over them. The Fate of Ophelia. When it started, I don't know, it sounded to me like she was trying to sound like Lana Del Rey. Let me know if you agree with that. I picked that up that she was trying to distance herself, from what she normally sounds like. And so, yeah, that was my first impression. The Fate of Ophelia, it was a very basic pop song. It had a catchy little chorus, but it wasn't really anything impressive. Then the second one, Elizabeth Taylor. This one really, it really set the tone for me for the rest of the album. Because when the song started playing, when the instrumentation began, I thought, ooh, this is pretty. This is so pretty. This is gonna be pretty. And then she goes into Elizabeth Taylor. And I'm thinking, okay, that kind of doesn't go with the instrumentation that I'm hearing, but I'll give it a chance. In my opinion, lyrically, this was probably the worst one. It felt like Max Martin handed her the most beautiful track, and she grabbed, this is how I picture everything happening. After listening to the album, she went to Max Martin, who is a powerhouse. He's the one who made Britney Spears who she is. He made Taylor Swift who she is. He produced, I believe, Blank Space and Shake It Off, which are two of her biggest songs ever. So the man has a way with producing amazing tracks and melodies. And I'm the type of person, I love good writing. But I will listen to a bad written song as long as the track and the beat and the melody sounds good. I will listen to it. That's just my thing. I think the vibe that you get from a song is just as important as the writing. But this one, I just couldn't. And this is how I pictured how everything happened. I believe she went to Max Martin and the other guy. What's the other producer? Shellback, I believe that's his name. They're both Swedish producers and they're very famous. They're very good at what they do. And I believe that she went to them and said, give me your best tracks. Give me the best tracks you've been working on, and I will write the lyrics. And we'll put an amazing album together. And they did that. They delivered. This album has some of the most beautiful tracks I have ever heard coming from Taylor Swift. Really beautiful instrumentation and strings and the synthesizer. Lots of synth sounds that made some of the sounds like they were kind of had like an 80s flavor to it. And I grew up in the 80s, so I love that stuff. But Taylor just failed miserably. And this song in particular, she was doing a kind of a weird call and response where she would sing, where she was saying something, and then she would repeat something in the background that was related to what she said, and it sounded like it didn't match. It didn't go with the beautiful track and the melodies that Max Martin and Shellback laid out for her. This album felt like a waste of beautiful tracks. I would love for another artist to do something very disruptive, to take all these tracks and put their own lyrics to it and make a whole album, make what the album should have sounded like, kind of a thing. I would love for that to happen. Obviously, they couldn't commercialize this because they would be subject to copyright, but they could put it out on the internet. They could put it out on YouTube and let us listen to it. Because these tracks, justice was not done to them. They were wasted. They were squandered. So Elizabeth Taylor, and the thing about it is, it was one track that could have been divided into two different songs. There's a little part right before the chorus where Taylor says, "And if your letters ever say goodbye," and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to hear that song. I want to hear that ballad, and then we can have the other part, the one with the drums and the beat, and they both could have been beautiful, but the lyrics, embarrassing. I didn't like it at all. At one point, when she was doing that weird call and response, I thought, is this satire? Is this like a joke, kind of like that when that girl Rebecca Black did Friday? Because this can't be real. This can't be Taylor. Anyway, listen to it and judge for yourselves, but I just didn't like it. Then there is Opalite. Let's get into it. Let's get into the whole controversy. In Opalite, she is clearly making a comparison between herself and Travis's ex-girlfriend, specifically Kayla Nicole, the one that was the last girlfriend he had before Taylor. And what bothered me primarily about this was the fact that Taylor is very aware of the fact that Kayla Nicole, from the moment her and Travis were seen as an item, there was some shade. People were throwing shade on the internet. They were comparing Kayla and Taylor, and they were saying that Travis downgraded and Kayla was such a beautiful woman and Taylor is such a basic looking woman. And I can imagine how hurtful that was for Taylor, and unwarranted, because Taylor wasn't troubling anybody. She was just dating a guy who pursued her, a guy that was single. He wasn't in a relationship at the time, and he pursued her and she accepted. She did nothing wrong. So the shade that was being thrown at her was very unfair. But it wasn't Kayla doing the shading. Kayla didn't do anything. She wasn't troubling anyone. And because people made that comparison and contrast, her trash-ass racist fans went after Kayla and just tortured this woman. Kayla was out here writing poems to black girls. And, it was kind of cringy. It was. Because Kayla, she clearly has no media training, because every time she tries to defend herself or seem like she's unbothered, it doesn't work out. Anyway, I don't want to knock on the poor girl. All I know is that Taylor knew what was going on. She never spoke up to defend her. Travis never spoke up to defend her. And Taylor goes on to write this song where she's really just throwing this girl under the bus. She's alluding to a video that Kayla had posted online when she was with Travis. They were having dinner and Kayla was on the phone and he was telling her to get off the phone. And so Taylor made that seem like Kayla never really cared about him. It was unnecessary. And then the whole Opalite versus Onyx. Taylor knew, if Taylor was an idiot, if Taylor was an airhead, I would dismiss that. But Taylor is an extremely smart woman. She understands symbolism and simile, and she understands optics. And she knew what she was doing, comparing the translucency of Opalite versus the darkness and the blackness of Onyx, and making it seem like the former is better than the latter. Not cool, Taylor. Not cool. And she even, there's other songs where she says, and I'm not a bad bitch, and this isn't savage, and people want a fat A with a baby face. And at one point she said something like people want a complex female character. I think that was a call to Complex magazine, which is a hip hop magazine, which has had some black women on the cover. And when she says in The Fate of Ophelia, all the time I sat alone in my tower, you were just honing your powers. Do you know what she's saying? I'm not going to go into the song Wood, because we know what it's all about. And it's kind of corny. I'm happy for her. I'm very happy that Taylor's having a good time in the bedroom. But she really laid in on how good he is in bed. When she says, while I sat alone in my tower, you were just honing your powers. What she's saying is that all those other relationships where you were with all those black girls, you were just practicing your sexual prowess. That's all that was, because she says you were just honing your powers. And now I can see it all. And she was sitting alone in her tower. Girl, don't act like you weren't also out here in these streets. You weren't sitting on no tower. You were outside. And no shade. I think that's fine. But let's not, there she is again, painting that contrast between the purity of the Opalite versus the sleaziness of the Onyx, while he was just practicing so he could get really good, so he can claim his prize from the pure porcelain that was waiting for him on her tower. I may be looking in too much into it, but I know how to read between the lines. And that was shade. And that was uncalled for. And anytime you are trading in these tropes, these racist tropes, all you're doing is just showing true colors. And I'm very disappointed. I am very, very disappointed. Taylor is having a hard time dealing with the fact that she is not Travis Kelce's preference. And she's taking it out on the wrong people. And this is not going to bode well for her. And I'm very disappointed. As a fan, I'm very disappointed, because I expect better from Taylor, because Taylor knows what she's doing. Okay, so I am here editing, and I wanted to come back in real quick because I don't think I made something very clear. And I want to make it very clear right now. I do not believe that Taylor Swift is a racist. I don't believe that. I believe that Taylor, like most people of all races, has internalized racial biases that tend to come out in situations where there is conflict, there is insecurity, there is fear. We go to our most basic elements in our brains, in our personalities, even places that we're not aware of. She's just like everybody else. She has biases, and they come out in the worst moments where we feel scared or angry. I think these are conversations that we need to have, that life is not so black and white, that there's a lot of gray, and we need to understand that. So yeah, I believe that her intentions were reprehensible. They were not good, but I don't believe that Taylor Swift is a racist. I absolutely reject that idea. For now, to be determined. So yeah, having said that, Opalite is a very beautiful song. Again, the track, the beautiful instrumentation, her singing, it's one of the best. This is one of the top 3 for me in terms of the beauty of the composition of the song. I have a problem with the lyrics and the attacking Kayla for no reason, but credit where it's due. This is a pretty song. Now, Father Figure is where things get interesting. Now, when I first heard this, I thought that this was about either Charlie XCX, with which she has beef, and we will see this in the song Actually Romantic, or it could be about Olivia Rodrigo, another young ingenue who's nipping at her heels, who she's had rumored beef with. The way she sings the song, you reminded me of a younger me. I had so many big hopes for you, and, I get to make deals because my is bigger. And so I'm thinking it's about them. But then I listened to something and I realized all this time we have been looking at Cancelled as the song about Blake Lively. But I think this is about her too. This one is about her. And whereas Cancelled was more charitable towards Blake and more forgiving, this one is not. This one has a darker, more sinister, more angry tone to it. Now, why do I think it includes Blake Lively? I do believe that the first part of the song definitely is dealing with either Charlie XCX, Olivia Rodrigo, or all of them. But she has this thing where she keeps repeating, I protect the family. I protect the family. And I'm like, what is she talking about? She's trying to sound like a mafioso. The whole song sounds like she's trying to be a mob boss, and she's a mafioso, and she's talking, I can protect the family, and we put the... But then it started reverberating in my head. What family is she talking about? Remember, I told you that if she knocks Blake in this album, she's not going to make it so obvious because she loves the kids. Blake and Ryan's kids. She's the godmother. And regardless of the relationship or no relationship that she might have with the parents, she's going to want to protect the children. So when she says, I protect the family, I'm thinking she's talking about the kids. And there are lines in the song that definitely sound like she was talking about them. Where did I write that? Okay, in the song where she says, the father figure, you want to fight? You found it. I'm going to tell you some of the lines that I think that resonate with Blake Lively and the accusations that were made. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please go watch some of these old videos. We go into detail of what happened between Blake Lively and Taylor Swift that may have cost them their friendship. And she says, you want to fight? You found it. Who covered up your scandals? Because that was one of the things that was said when Taylor Swift's lawyer received a call from Blake Lively's lawyer saying if she doesn't write a letter supporting Blake Lively publicly in this whole Justin Baldoni-Blake Lively lawsuit, some text messages between her and Blake Lively that may embarrass Taylor might come out. And so Taylor is now saying, oh, you wanted to expose me? Who protected your scandals? Who protected you? And she says, mistake my kindness for weakness and find your card canceled. Taylor could have stopped Blake Lively from being so unpopular and so unliked today by just tweeting her words of support for her. She could have stood by her. She could have publicly defended her, and the Swiftie army would have come and wrapped their arms around Blake Lively, but she didn't. And so she ended up canceled. I don't know. It sounds like it. And when she said, I was your father figure, I hope that this is not in relation to Blake's dad who passed away last year. I don't think Taylor would go that low. I really don't believe so. So that was just, father figure. I think she was sunning Charlie and Olivia. So in that part. So I don't think that was it. But when she says, you pulled the wrong trigger, this empire belongs to me. Is she saying, I am Khaleesi and you are the dragon? Don't get it twisted. When she says this empire belongs to me. I don't know. I think this was the one. I think that Cancelled was written while the movie was being promoted, when the movie came out. And Blake was being criticized for being tone deaf because she actually uses the term tone deaf, where she says, tone deaf and hot, let's off her, talking about how the public reacted to Blake Lively. So I believe that in that instance, when she wrote Cancelled, it was about the public rumbling about the way the movie was being promoted in a tone-deaf manner, that the story was about DV, but Blake was trying to make it seem like a rom-com, and that was very tone-deaf for actual victims of DV. And so I do believe that that's why she was more charitable in Cancelled, because it was written before the betrayal. But then Father Figure was written after the betrayal. But she did not go in too deep because she kept saying, I protect the family. I protect the family. I don't know. Let me know what you think about that. I really think that was the big one against Blake Lively. What else? What's the other one? Eldest Daughter. That's the one that has that line of, I'm not a bad bitch and this isn't savage. It was terrible. But again, very, very pretty song. Very pretty. The track, the melody, it was really pretty. It was like a really nice country tune that's very reminiscent of earlier Taylor. But when I was listening to that song, at that point, that's when I realized, you know what? Max Martin and the other producer, they just threw their best tracks at Taylor, and Taylor just started filling in the blanks with mediocre lyrics. She was not that inspired. And that's why I say this album shows through the different clues that Taylor is not that into Travis. And she knows that Travis is not that into her. But time is running out. They both want to have children. They want to have a family. And they just decided to settle for each other. She's more interested in how things affect her, not so much in how she views him as being an individual who stands on his own, as somebody who is remarkable on his own. It's all about how he sees her and how he admires her and how he's into her. That's what she likes about this relationship, because she needs the attention. But like in all relationships, the day will come when Travis is just not showing that much interest in her. And what's going to happen then? I hope that there are no children involved when that happens. Ruin the Friendship. This is about a high school friend. Kind of sad song. Actually Romantic. This was another one that I really enjoyed. Now, I don't know much about Charli XCX. I don't listen to her music. But the background story is that Charli has been sneak dissing Taylor for quite a while. And Taylor has been trying to be nice. She's been trying to keep it cute in public and always saying nice things. But Charli has always been kind of like dissing her. Taylor took her on tour with her when Charli was, at the beginning of her career. And Charli apparently said some disrespectful things about the tour, that there were just a bunch of little girls in the audience. Who cares? They paid to come see you and Taylor. So it was a lot of sneak dissing going on, and Taylor just got tired and she decided to just pew pew. And I thought it was so funny. I really enjoyed it. I think this is how you handle situations. And I really would have liked it if this song was about Blake Lively. But I think she handled it very well. I think she did. The whole thing about the song, Actually Romantic, is that, you're so obsessed with me, always saying things about me, that is actually romantic. No man has ever loved me this much. And at one point she said something like, your boyfriend must be wondering, why are we always talking about her? I like that. This, to me, in terms of the tone, the music, the catchiness of it, and the lyrics, this was my favorite. Actually Romantic. This was my highlight for the whole album. And again, I don't know Charli. This is no shade to Charli. If you are somebody who likes her and you feel offended by the song, I'm sorry. But all I know is, if somebody is nipping at your heels, even though you're trying to be as nice as possible, there comes a time when you need to kick the puppy. You just have to. Otherwise, they're going to keep on doing it. And so I respect her for that. I wish she had done that to Blake, though. But I protect the family. She protects the family. She was protecting the kids. I'm running out of space in the camera, so I just want to make sure that I finish everything. Actually Romantic, I said it. Wish List. That's when she talks about, men want the booty and the baby face. But this was such a pretty song. In terms of songs that I listened to that I really loved how it sounded, this was my favorite. And I hate that some of my favorite songs are the ones when she's, throwing shade at the sisters. I don't like that. But Fair is Fair, and I really loved the hook and the bridge in this song. It was so pretty. And I'm annoyed by people saying, when she says she wants to get married and have a bunch of kids, people are saying that this is very MAGA coded. Are y'all okay? Are y'all really saying that only Republicans want to have kids? All the couples that I know that got married and had a bunch of kids are all liberals. Liberals want children too. They want families. And you have to understand, guys, the purpose of feminism is for women to choose the life they want to live and to be able to live it to the fullest, to be able to decide this is what I want to do and to have the right to do it exactly the way they want, just like men do. Men get to choose whatever they want to do and nothing stands in their way. This is what feminism is all about. Women should have the same rights men have to live the life of their choice. And if that life involves getting married, having a traditional marriage, wanting to submit to your husband because it makes you feel good because you trust that man, then feminism says you should have that. And if you want to be a woman who never gets married, who never has children, who just has cats or no pets, who wants to have boyfriends and have adventures, then feminism says you should have that too. It's about choices. Stop with the whole wanting to get married and have a bunch of kids is MAGA coded. Stop it. Stop it. Gosh. Giving us all a bad name. Canceled again. It's about Blake. It's really about her. And it's solidified when she said, they stood by me before my exoneration. They believed I was innocent. And so I'm not here for judgment. That's about Blake and Ryan. When she was canceled, when she had that whole thing with Kanye and Kim and people turned their backs on her, Blake and Ryan stood by her. And so she said, I'm not going to throw these people away. I can't do that because they stood by me when I was at my lowest. And as much as I detest Blake and Ryan, I respect that. I respect that. I respect that. The others, Honey. I liked Honey. Honey was a pretty song, but it was very empty, very vapid. She didn't go any deeper. And finally, The Life of a Showgirl. That was the only song in the album that really follows the theme of a showgirl, where she talks about how she was inspired by somebody. Somebody said that the woman she talks about that inspired her to be a showgirl was Britney. She doesn't call her Britney. I think she calls her Tilly. But if that's it, that was so sweet. That was pretty, but it wasn't a remarkable song. It didn't really call out to me or to anybody, to be honest. So yeah, the album overall, it shows, like I said, there were clues in this album that Travis is just not the one. When you contrast this to the things she said about Joe, when she wrote about Joe, she did a whole album, Lover, about Joe Alwyn. When she said, listen to how she talks about Joe Alwyn. With every guitar string scar on my hand, I take this magnetic force of a man to be my lover. Come on now. That's how she talks about Joe Alwyn. That's how she talks about a man that she is enthralled with. What does she say in contrast about her pledge to Travis? I pledge allegiance to your hands, your team, your vibes. Not his heart, not his brain, his magnificent brain that she's so in love with his thinking and his character. There wasn't a word in this album about his character, his brilliance, his talent. Yeah, she talks about a certain talent of his. And I'm happy for you, Taylor. But that's not enough. That's gonna wear out. And then what? What are you going to have left to admire about this man? You need more, you require more, and you haven't found it with this man. And I'm sorry to say that, but there really isn't any depth in this album. When you compare this to Lover or even Tortured Poets, when she talks about what it means to be in love with someone and then to lose that person, what that person meant to her, how deeply they touched her, there was none of that here. And I think that's a major red flag. When she says, all the other guys, you know, they faded in the spotlight, but you thrived. You bloomed under my spotlight. That's a red flag, girl. That's something you need to look out for. The fact that Travis loves your clout, the clout that you have given him, the money and the fame, the extra money and fame that came through your association, and you think that that's one of his good qualities? Yeah, girl, you're about to go through some things. And this is not me wishing evil on them. I hope that this works out. I hope that it is more than she was able to convey. But knowing Taylor, understanding how talented she is and how much she could have said in this album, the fact that she was so uninspired and the lyricism was so mediocre, it kind of speaks to the lack of depth that they have in this relationship. And that makes me sad for her and for him, because I believe that they both should have what they want and nobody should settle for less simply because the clock is ticking. Overall, it was easy on the ears because of the music, because of the tracks, the melodies, the beats, and that's all on Mr. Max Martin and Shellback. That's his name, Shellback. Great job. Great job, producers. Taylor, I don't know what happened. But anyway, that's what I see in this album. Let me know what you think. Do you agree with me? Put some comments below. Let me know which ones were your favorite songs. Do you have no favorite songs? Do you like nothing about the album? Let me know that as well in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see me do commentary on different topics in pop culture and what's happening in the news. Give it a like if you enjoyed this. Share this video with others. That would really help me to grow my channel when people get to see my videos. And while you're here, please watch other videos that I have linked below that you might be interested in by clicking on this one. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.